I want to take you for a few minutes through the journey of my life. I was born in Iran, Persia, and I finished my primary education in that country before I was sent as one of the 5 children to Austria, city of Graz, for my university education, which I finished my master's degree in architecture. In 1981, I immigrated to Australia, where I started my company known as Sunland. I've been exposed in a very early stage of my life through different various culture, the Middle Eastern culture, the German culture, and the Anglo-Saxon culture. And interesting enough, when you really reflect in the history of each one of them, you will see that they had a conflict with each other. But ironically, when you look at the people, beyond the politics, you will see that every single human being, irrespective of their culture, language, and differences, they have elements that is binding them together. Elements, virtues such as love, understanding, humility, and above all, the principle of unity. Unfortunately, we are seeing these issues that we are calling them universal values. They have gradually moved away in pursuit of economic success. I recall when I was only 6 or 7 years old that my father once took me to a housewarming in the neighborhood of one of his good friends that they moved to that neighborhood. And he started to welcome us, and his welcoming speech, he remarked that his greatest concern is that children my age and his children would never be able to own their own homes. That was almost 6 years ago. Now you know my age. That concept that I can never own my home, it was really difficult for me to understand, but nevertheless stuck with me for many years. Maybe it was the platform why I started architecture. Throughout my life in a business, I built 1,000 upon 1,000 homes. To be exact, we have built altogether around 30,000 dwellings. And I own my own home. But when I reflect now, 60 years later, I find out that statement of that gentleman, the friends of my father, was so profound. We see every day that the young people, they have not the opportunity to own their homes. We find out that owning the homes is becoming a desire that many of the youngers, they cannot afford to do that. And that statement that it created between the gap of rich and poor is becoming more and more evidence. In last year, World Economic Forum in Davos, it was stated that 85 people owning 50% of the wealth of the poorest people on the planet, namely 3.5 billion. We understand now that how difficult it will be for somebody to succeed in this world when it is such a disparity between rich and poor. And we know with having on our planet Earth now 7 billion population, and estimated by the end of the century to be 11 billion, how we can have a sustainable living on this planet. And I believe, and I ardently hope, that we start to have a shift in our mindset, that we create a sense of togetherness, that we understand our neighbor is one of our family members, that we understand those that they are in need, it is our responsibility to look after them. We know ardently that when 11 billion people living in this planet, we need to have a shift in our thinking. We can no longer use the power of dictating to the others. Power has to be the source of service for others. Wealth has to be a platform for giving. We are in pursuit of our own well-being, and we forget that the path that we are taking is lead us to the issues that almost it is impossible to survive if we don't start serving the humankind. You know, when we are moving away from all these universal values, all these virtues that is bonding our heart together, we see the conflict right at the front of our eyes. Ukraine and Russia is an example of that. You look at it, what is happening in my area that I've been growing up, Middle East, that everybody is at the top of everybody else to prove that they are wrong and everybody else is wrong. They are right and everybody else is wrong. That the Libyan versus Iraqis versus Syrian, they are killing each other for one single attitude, which they call it power and righteousness. We know that we have to start today to do something to move away from this pattern of selflessness, from the pattern that I am right and everybody else wrong, from the pattern that we need to understand and collaborate for the betterment, not for ourselves, for our future generation. And I know the only way that we can start to do that is through one simple philosophy, which we call it the three protagonists, which is the individual, the community, and the institution of the society. Unless and until that the individual start to see themselves as an agent of change, unless that the community is totally in line with the institution of the society, and the institution of society is totally in collaboration with the community and the individual, we cannot succeed in our world going forward. I hope that one day we start looking at the people with respect that I have the opportunity to help. I am an agent of change. Let me tell you a story which is very much within our culture upbringing. Storytelling is part of the Middle Eastern culture. And I'm going to put yourself in a position that has happened to me, okay? Just bear with me. I hope it is in few years' time, but say it's happened. Imagine that I die, okay? And I go somewhere that I don't know really where it is. And the guard came and looked at it. They said, Mr. Abedian, I looked at your record, and actually you are okay. You just passed to go to heaven. But we have a policy. And the policy is that those that they are going to be in heaven for eternity, they have to go through a round of hell. I said, okay, no problem. Take me. And we walked together, hand in hand, very relaxed, and I come across this massive gate, beautiful, beautiful massive gate. I believe actually I designed it myself, but nevertheless, it was written with the neon light at the top of it, welcome to hell, welcome to hell. And it was flashing right in my eyes. We knocked on the door and the gate opened. Oh my God, I have never, ever seen anything like that. And I hope that you guys don't see it either. It was the most amazing landscape that anybody could imagine. Tall trees, flowers of every kind, butterflies flying everywhere, nightingales singing, and the water stream coming through everywhere. And on the right-hand side was a massive table with all kind of the food from every single part of the world. From my country, it was kebab. From your country, it was burgers, when we all work, fish and chips. Anyway, and then the bell rang, and suddenly the inhabitants of hell arrived. Every one of them very agitated. They are elbowing each other. And they arrived, and I looked at them, and I saw that each one of them, they have a wooden spoon 1 meter long, hooked into their hand. They sat down on the table and they start to eat everything. It went everywhere to their head, to their eyes, but they could not feed it in their mouth. They got more agitated, more frustrated, and the time was up and they had to go to the same place. I said to my God, you know what? Very interesting. God has created everything for them, and they don't know how to use it. Take me to heaven. We walked together. Oh my God, it was exactly the same gate, the same design. And actually at the bottom of it, it was designed by Sohail Abedian. I never did. And the door opened, and it was the same tree, the same butterflies, the same of everything. And the food was exactly the same on the right-hand side. This time the inhabitants of the heaven arrived, and everybody was very polite, and they said, Lauren, please go forward. And you say, no, please, you go forward. And everybody sat down, and this time everybody took the food and feed some other person. We need, in conclusion, to understand this very important statement of Mahatma Gandhi: live simply that other may simply live. Thank you very much.